Welcome to Team 3's presentation on skills from Chapter 7 in the Dirksen text. First, we're going to go over an overview of what we'll talk about today. Talk about who we are, practicing skills, the concept of flow, feedback, skills assessment, and designing for accomplishment. First, a little bit about who we are. Bailey Long, a designer. Kevin Hoyer, myself, senior specialist at AppleCare. Marilyn Poston, teacher, B.D. Lee Elementary School, 3rd grade. And Jennifer Campbell, instructor at Caldwell Community College and Technical Institute. First, a guiding question. Is it reasonable to think that someone can be proficient without practice? When it comes to practice, you either use it or you lose it. Using skills develops proficiency, with the goal being unconscious competence, not even knowing that you're using the skills you've developed. When designing training, you want to give your learners opportunities to practice. During training is ideal, with guidance from the instructor to allow your learners to develop proficiency and learn from others. They can also learn on the job, which is less than ideal, because they'll learn through trial and error, and it'll take longer to become proficient. Here's a quote directly from the book. You either create opportunities for learners to practice, or you take what you can get. Let's talk about structuring practice. You want to provide new information, but providing that is a heavy cognitive load for participants. It's like your mind hiking uphill. Too much leads to information overload and headaches. Using known skills, on the other hand, is a lower cognitive demand. Ideally, we'll relate new information to known skills, which allows your mind to coast downhill and provides a cognitive break or rest. Avoid providing all information at once. This leads to information overload, or is often referred to as an info dump. We want to pace new information and build on context of known skills. Repeating this pattern develops what we call flow. To go into more about that, I'll hand it over to Bailey.
Have you ever been so in the moment with the task at hand that you lose track of time and place? This could be described as a state of flow, joy, creativity, and the process of total involvement with life. If you've been there before, then you know that the flow state is a wonderful, blissful place to be, where nothing matters except for what's right in front of you, and it can become a meditative state. We can help our learners achieve a state of flow by balancing the level of challenge with their current ability. This helps the learner attain a higher sense of satisfaction. If the challenge is a little too difficult, then they may become frustrated. But if it's a little too easy, then it will have the same negative effects, and they will become bored with the task that's in front of them. In regards to the frequency of practice, a longer time period in between practice sessions can lead to a longer overall retention, which is kind of the opposite of what you would expect. Also, it's best to space them out to the same frequency that you expect that behavior to be used. So if it's a behavior that you expect them to replicate on a weekly basis, then maybe practicing that skill once a week. And likewise for if it's a daily occurrence. As for the amount of practice, more practice is required for the following scenarios: an activity that has variable outcomes, an activity where a higher degree of accuracy is required of the learner, an activity where it is required for the learner to perform the action in a more automatic way, and the more quickly the learner needs to respond. All of these are scenarios that would require more practice.
In Dirksen's chapter on design for skills, she states that teaching skills requires two main elements: practice and feedback. So why do we give feedback? Well, first of all, we're hoping to improve the performance of our students. Our feedback should be used as an opportunity to motivate our students during their learning process. We want to promote continuous learning or growth in our students' ability to perform the skills we're teaching. Feedback should create a sense of purpose for our students. It should answer the question of why. Why are we completing this assignment or this particular skill? We would also use feedback to improve engagement. Our students should be more excited and more apt to engage with the material if they understand the why. Cultivating relationships can be one of the benefits of giving good feedback. The more we get to learn about our students, the more we can provide for their learning needs. Feedback is also a really good reinforcement tool for those students who are already performing skills up to standards. So we want to make sure that our feedback is specific, that it's actionable, that our students know how to correct any errors that they might be making. We want to be sure that our feedback is ongoing through the whole learning process. Our feedback should be consistent. It should be happening on a regular basis, and it should be consistent across all our students. Our feedback should recognize our students' effort, especially when it comes to challenging activities. Our feedback should also be goal-focused. We need to remind our students what their end goal is in completing the course outcomes and use our feedback to support their goal in getting there. Our feedback should be regular. It should happen during and after the performance of the skill, and then it should occur beyond assessments. We can use our feedback to draw back to other assignments to make connections between all the learning happening in the course. Feedback should be given in a variety of ways. We can give formal feedback by the means of grades or numeric feedback. We can give informal, spontaneous feedback while interacting with our students, kind of like a coach does with an athlete. We can give very specific, skill-focused, constructive feedback. We can also give learner-to-learner feedback, and where we allow our students to support each other during group projects and conference on different activities. The most important feedback is self-feedback. A student needs to be given the time to reflect on their own learning. They can create rubrics or use rubrics that you provide to gauge their understanding of material.
Assessments, multiple choice assessments. Multiple choice assessments are very popular, but they really aren't about making the learner better at what they do. They are easy to write, administer, and score, and the grading is objective. They are also consistent. Everyone pretty much has the same experience. Educators learn how good the learner is at taking multiple choice assessments. There's really nothing on a multiple choice assessment about the learning advantages for the learner. These are the disadvantages of multiple choice assessments. You are only able to give limited feedback to correct errors in student understanding. They tend to focus on low-level learning objectives. The results may be biased by the reading ability or test wisement of the learner. Development of good items is time-consuming, and measuring ability to organize and express ideas is not possible. So what are some types of assessments that we can give rather than multiple choice assessments? We have pre-assessments, formative assessments, summative assessments, confirmative assessments, norm reference assessments, criterion reference assessments, and ipsative assessments. All of these different assessments will measure different things about the learner. Goal, coaching the learner and assessing competency. There are two things we need to look at. Have the learner perform the task and provide useful feedback. The best feedback would be ongoing coaching based on real performance. There are 7 core practices for student-centered coaching: utilizing coaching cycles, set standard-based goals, unpack the goal into learning targets, co-plan with student evidence, co-teach using effective instructional practices, measure the impact on student and teacher learning, and partner with the school leader. Using games in learning. Good games create and support the cycle of expertise with cycles of extended practice, tests of mastery of that practice, then a new challenge, and then new extended practice. Games structure these cycles of expertise is by having immediate, short-term, mid-term, and long-term accomplishments for the learner. Flow of goal accomplishment of short-term goals are necessary to achieve the longer-term goals, which in turn roll up to accomplish the overarching goals. So how do we apply this in learning? The learner could focus on the immediate skills. The learner could step back and focus on the skills. The learner could focus on the necessary skills, and they would get multiple exposures to a topic over time.